My boy Shinso being in a new Boku no Hero Academia chapter with more muscle mass, you can see it in the panels with his arms, and on top of that, the final chapter 2016, Horikoshi. Thank you. I am truly happy to see this boy, Shinso, once again. He's a fascinating character because his quirk ability is something you would normally see on a villain. And to see how he's a part of the hero side, it just displays what type of character he is and how much he really wants to be a hero. I mean, even what he stated to Izuku in the past of how, his quirk ability would mainly be suited to be a villain instead of being a hero, but he's a hero because he wants to be one. And one of his biggest weaknesses was that he can, brainwash people, but he didn't have physical strength. And seeing how he has definitely built up some form of muscle mass, most likely thanks to Aizawa, and him talking, I'm happy to see that because it shows that this man is trying to overcome some of his weaknesses that he had with his own quirk. Yes, his quirk is very powerful. Brainwashing is a fucking broken ability. It really is. It's a really broken ability depending on its limits, and he has a really strong ability. And so one of the big things is if his quirk ability somehow does not work, he needs to be able to, protect himself. He needs to have some form of physical strength. And so with seeing him have some form of built-up muscle mass, especially in this chapter, it lets us know that he's trying to overcome some of these weaknesses. It's not just Class A trying to overcome their weaknesses, for instance, how Izuku's changing up his style to other characters trying to figure out new techniques. It's also Class B trying to figure out what they need to do as well to improve themselves and also use their, quirk abilities more effectively in, different parts that they normally wouldn't have been able to actually do in the first place when they first started using their quirks. So seeing Shinso actually trying to train his body, it makes me happy to see that Horikoshi once again shows that he loves taking care of his support/side characters besides just the main characters. For instance, maybe, Bakugo, All Might, and Izuku. He focuses on these side characters, and you clearly see that with Shinso's character in this chapter. Now, before I get any further, let's talk about the rivalry between Bakugo and Izuku. So, Bakugo and Izuku's rivalry. We know the past couple chapters have been focusing on that. Finally, Bakugo has learned the truth about what has really happened to Izuku and All Might. He now knows about, One for All. He now knows exactly how Izuku became the chosen one thanks to All Might. He now knows. And now a secret that was just amongst All Might and Izuku, it's now a secret amongst all three of them. And it shows their bond as friends. And also you see what's taking place in this chapter, true rivals. There's a lot of series out there to where there's rivals that try to benefit each other. For instance, they want to go at it constantly, but the way the rivalry is done, it seems like they don't really try to help each other improve. It's kind of like unconscious improvement. And that's what's happening in this, but it's taken to a whole new level. Both of these characters throughout the series has been unconsciously not really showing their feelings to each other. They've been both trying to outdo each other. And they've had their own certain, things about them that they wanted to get better at. For instance, spirit and strength. And when you see this chapter, Bakugo stating, hey, your shoot style, you need to do it like this or improve it. It's not meant to be like a slugfest. Bakugo's offering advice to Izuku, and when him saying this, like when he says this in this chapter, this is one thing you can kind of pull out of that, like the message. Bakugo is now accepted Izuku, and he has now accepted him as a proper rival. He's not going to throw him under the bus and all that. He's now going to help him out to improve himself for they could be on level ground, proper rivals. And I love seeing that. This isn't just, two people hating each other or, maybe, Bakugo hating, Izuku or whatever, not liking him. It seems like they finally have come to an understanding. They no longer dislike each other, or at the very least Bakugo doesn't show that he dislikes him. He's going out of his way to actually help out Izuku, which that is something I love seeing. I love seeing that in this chapter, seeing how he gave advice, because it lets us know what type of rivalry these two have. It's not a rivalry to where they want to kill each other, it's a rivalry to where they want to benefit each other. They both help each other along their way to become the greatest heroes in the hero society. They both are trying to help each other out. So with that being done in this chapter, it was definitely once again another way to end 2016. I mean, it's not just, Shinso, but seeing these two and how their bond is now, especially with them helping each other other out, that really, really makes me happy just to see how much development they got with these past couple chapters. Now, talking about one more thing when it comes to Bakugo and Izuku, thanks to their fight, they're in trouble. They're all in house arrest right now. They cannot leave their dorms, all that. They have to clean the dorms, and everybody else thinks it was rather stupid. And poor Bakugo right now, thanks to the fight they had, he cannot go to his test. He can't go to the exams and stuff like the makeup test for his exam. He can't do that. He can't go there because right now he's under house arrest, and there's just nothing he can do. So Bakugo being able to take the exam once again, it might be pushed back a little bit thanks to what has happened with this fight. But this fight needed to be done. I mean, it also shows you what type of state of mind Bakugo is in at this time, because when Todoroki told Bakugo this, and he's like, I'll handle it or whatever, and then right after that, Bakugo talks to Izuku and tells him about his shoot style, it shows that Bakugo is not holding hard feelings towards Izuku. For instance, that fight, he's not holding hard feelings towards him, he's not trying to put Izuku down or blame Izuku for why he can't go to his exam test and stuff. He's not blaming Izuku for that. He actually tried to help him out after that scene, so it lets us know that he's not holding anything against Izuku after that fight. They finally both have come to a mutual understanding. Now, getting off of, Izuku and Bakugo, let's talk about the next part, the next, big information we got in this chapter. For one, the new opening ceremony has started. For instance, the next year for UA has started. All the students have come together and all that, Class B, Class A, and we found out that Class B and Class A are going to be sharing a class this year, along with an introduction of a new character, which goes by the name of Pony, if I'm correct. I think it's Pony that this new character comes by, has horns and all that. It just, the design of the character Pony looks very weird, but interesting. And if there's one thing I really love about Horikoshi's, art design, it's usually the designs that really get me. I mean, I love the story, I love the messages and stuff it tries to do, but if I'm just talking strictly about the art, I feel like Boku no Hero Academia's art style is just so different compared to everything else in Weekly Shonen Jump. I mean, I just love the style of it, and I love the designs of the characters. You can always see how crazy these designs are. They're completely different from what you would expect from a normal manga series. The only other writer and artist I could think of that does some crazy designs in Weekly Shonen Jump would probably be Oda. Oda from, One Piece. That's the only other mangaka I could think of that does those wacky and crazy designs. So Horikoshi, I really respect, once again, how great of a design you have for a new character, and honestly, this new character that was introduced, Pony, most likely is going to be very important, because if there's one thing we have learned from Boku no Hero Academia, is that when a character is introduced, usually they'll have some form of role to play, and also they will get development, maybe their own chapter focused on them, or they'll get development throughout, multiple chapters over time. Something like that could happen. I mean, look at Shinso. I once again want to go back to his character. This is a type of character that isn't necessarily a main character, but he's gotten some good development. For one, he has realized his weaknesses with his quirk. He needs to build up his body. He needs to become physically stronger, not just mentally. On top of that, though, you have, him, talking to Aizawa, some form of training he's probably doing with Aizawa. So when you see this going on, just these little characters constantly getting this, I guess, upgrade in characterization and development, it makes me happy because Horikoshi does not forget about them. He continuously uses them, because honestly, I would find it such a waste if Horikoshi introduced these characters and didn't use them much or show them on, the different manga chapters often, because, I mean, there's just so many good designs these characters have. I mean, like Toga, Shigaraki, I mean, All for One, I mean, look at All Might, I mean, look at Izuku, Bakugo, I mean, there's just a lot of characters have some really cool designs, and so I'm glad to see, once again, another great design of Boku no Hero Academia. And with that, I feel like that kind of concludes my thoughts on this chapter. I mean, we have the entire speech with the principal and what he's saying and all that, how it's going to be a very difficult year, thanks to their pillar being gone, All Might. But overall, though, is a very simplistic chapter setting up for the events to come. So how do you feel? And I mean, what do you guys feel about that final panel? Like, who do you think that was? I mean, my first impressions when I was reading the chapter, I thought that final panel with the person with the back of their hair, I thought that was Shinso at first. But looking at the style of hair, I don't think that is Shinso. I really do not think it is. Now, hear me out here. I could be wrong with this, but I feel like that person in the final panel is All Might. I feel like we're going to probably be getting into some form of flashback arc with All Might, because, I mean, he was talking about himself. He was talking in, like, past tense, like, you know, how he used to get a lot of requests all the time before he became a teacher, and then all of a sudden we see this person in the back of his hair. It looks a lot like All Might, so I wonder if we're going to be getting some form of arc focusing around All Might, like a flashback arc, focusing on him as a younger person, and as a very young hero before he became known as All Might, the, you know, the #1 hero. I wonder if that's what Horikoshi's going to be doing, because that's what it looked like to me, especially with the chapter's conclusion, but I could be wrong. It could be an entirely different character. Maybe it could be Shinso, maybe it could be someone else from Class B. We'll have to see where it goes. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.